7101 and declaring an emergency. Mary, you want to speak on this at all?
This was one of the ones that Chrissy put through, so I think this is just a general housekeeping item.
Need a motion?
Motion to bring it up.
Second?
Second.
Okay. Okay.
Second.
Rusty stuff. That's right. You forget slightly. Okay, next one. A resolution accepting the amounts and rates as determined by the Budget Commission and authorizing the necessary tax levies and certifying them to the county auditor and declaring an emergency. Mayor, this is put by Chrissy as well.
This,
If I may, that is something you guys do every year.
Okay. Motion to bring it out?
Motion to bring it up.
Second?
Second.
Move on to the third piece. A resolution to support a medical marijuana dispensary in the city of Struthers and declaring an emergency. Mayor, do you want to speak on this one at all?
yes, this I would like to. I'm not sure
Sure.
if you want to have our guest speak during this time too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so we have Galenas here from a medical, we have two different groups of people here who are going to be putting in applications to the state to enter into the lottery system for licenses for medical marijuana dispensaries. And we also, Dr. Andrews is here too with the Berner family. So I would like if you guys could just take a couple minutes and we can start with you guys and explain just briefly what your company is, and if we have any questions, we can follow up on this. I really think from my standpoint and from our office standpoint, this is something that I feel like we need to jump on board with, or we're going to get left behind. This is something that's happening all around us, and I think we need to take advantage of it. We have two different groups here who want to open up the medical marijuana dispensaries. We already have a couple in the surrounding areas, but it would really bring some foot traffic and some people into downtown that we're looking
And tax
to.
revenue.
And tax revenue, which is always a plus. But
And the title has to be amended.
yeah, the title obviously would be
Correct.
medical marijuana dispensaries. So that would just have to be amended on there as well. So, and this is something they both need in order to apply. I believe the application is something like a $20,000 application. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's a very expensive application, and it will go a lot smoother for both of them if they have something from council saying that we are in support of bringing these to the city. You guys want to introduce yourself?
So I just want to introduce myself. I'm John Serrano. I've met previously with the mayor, and I appreciated her time when we had a chance to talk previously. I wanted to bring in our CEO tonight to talk a little bit more about Galenas, our company, what we do. I do want to just footnote and say that we are both local. Jeff grew up in the area, and I currently reside in Poland. So we have roots here, long-standing roots, and we're happy to have an opportunity to talk with you a little bit tonight about the company. With that, I'll introduce our CEO, Jeff Corp.
Hi everybody, I'll stand. Should I stand anywhere in particular for the sake of the camera?
If you want to maybe stand right behind Megan.
Sure. So I brought just a couple of really high-level kind of visuals, I guess, for the sake of anyone that would like to see kind of what we're proposing to do. And I also have some cards, and I'll just leave them on the table. But as an introduction, my name is Jeff Corp. I'm the CEO of a company called Galenas. We are what's called a level 2 medical marijuana cultivator here in Ohio. We have an operation that is just south of downtown Akron. We've been in operation for about 2.5 years now. And so we got one of the original licenses in the state of Ohio when Ohio first went through this process of creating a medical marijuana program and allowing these companies to exist in the state. And now we're kind of gearing up for the next round of applications that are about to happen. I'll talk a little bit more about our company, but just from a process standpoint, here is how it's going to work. September. I don't know if it's gonna be in a week or 3 weeks, but we believe the RFA period is gonna open up shortly this month. Once that happens, it's going to be exactly a 59-day window in which everyone who wants to apply for a license is going to have to identify one or more locations, depending on how many sites you're looking at, is going to have to get local approval, whatever that looks like. Sometimes it's as much as applying for conditional use approval and then going through a hearing with the planning commission and then going through subsequent hearings with council. Sometimes it's just a mayor or the local planning person signing your application and that's it. So it's really up to the municipality to decide what the process is in order to get approval. But once we have approval, then we have to get surveys done on our sites. We have to engage our architect to get a site plan done. We have to create a customized security plan for each individual location. It is a pretty involved process that we have to go through. And that's just to get to the point where we are permitted to submit an application. Once we go to the state, there's a whole separate process we've got to go through. It involves a lot of background checks and financial disclosures. They've got to validate that we're not within 500 feet of a school or a church or a public park or a public library. And so I'm saying all these things because different communities obviously have different opinions about this, but it is a very strenuously regulated process in the state of Ohio. I know there are a lot of conceptions and sometimes misconceptions about what the medical marijuana industry is all about, but I think if you take the time to look at it, you'll understand that this is a highly regulated, very safe, a very secure, very professional industry here in the state. They're not just giving out these licenses willy-nilly. It's a big chore to go through this process, and ultimately, if you end up with one, more often than not, it means that you're a very well put together enterprise and you've done your homework and you know how to run a business. So circling back to us, to Galenas, as I said, we've been operating for 2.5 years. We're operating in Michigan now. We're what's called vertically integrated in the Michigan market, which means we have cultivation, processing, and retail in that state. And we're growing. We're very motivated to be a business that's growing as this market continues to grow.
So you do have a background then in all aspects of this, not just cultivation.
Yes, that's
You're
correct.
just cultivation in Ohio.
That's correct, yeah.
But in Michigan, you do your one-stop shop.
Yeah,
You
we
go
do everything.
from cultivation to retail.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's correct. And personally, for me, I'm an attorney. I practiced law for a number of years, and then I was the president of a manufacturing company here in the Youngstown area, just down the road in Salem. I was the president of a company called Quakerson Castings for about a decade, and I have been following this market for a long time, and decided to kind of make the jump over. And so I've been running Galenas now for about 3.5 years, and we've been operating in Ohio for 2.5, and we've been operating in Michigan for a couple of months. But as I said, we're growing, we're motivated to keep the business going. We've been fantastic neighbors in any of the communities that we get involved in, and we would very much like the opportunity to put a location here in Struthers. There's a lot of legwork and things that have to happen after we would potentially get an approval here. And you never know what the state is going to do as far as handling these licenses. It is still a very difficult process to go through. But I'm happy to answer any questions, and I'll end just by saying we really appreciate the time, and the audience here, and the mayor has been really fantastic to talk to as far as willingness to kind of engage in the conversation. And so that I guess I'll end it there. Are there any questions or anything that I can talk through?
When does the RFA open?
I don't know for sure. I know it's going to be this month.
So the sooner the better, so that if this does get approved, the sooner the better, so that you can start to put in your ground game.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
you have to have like a shovel-ready area that you have to present to them?
Pretty much,
Do you
yes.
have, what areas have you looked at in Struthers?
So the mayor's office has provided us with a couple of locations. We've kind of narrowed in on one in particular, and I don't recall the address. John, do you remember it off the top of your head?
No, I don't. It's down in the old industrial park, and it would be part of, yeah, that's exactly right, thank you.
From the schools and library, because we're really, we're landlocked
It's
here,
the little,
basically.
they're looking at the little building in front of the A building. So the A building where they just redid the windows when you're going up the bridge.
Oh, the little
That-
square building,
On the right,
basically,
right before you
yes.
start up the bridge.
Okay.
We may have to do some augmentation, some modification to that location, but it potentially could work and work well for us.
Yeah.
But again, as Jeff mentioned, there are a lot of
Yeah.
hoops we need to jump through and a lot of hurdles we need to clear very quickly if we're going to be in a position, once the RSA comes out, to be
Yeah,
able
if
to
you've ever
submit
been
the
to a
application.
dispensary, the security is the main thing that you notice. You're buzzed in, you're buzzed out, you know what I mean?
But
So that seems like a
that's-
very controllable building there.
As Jeff mentioned, it's highly regulated, so that
Sure.
is part of our plan in the application process. If we don't have a security plan that's up to snuff, then you're not going to be able to take
But
that
you
next
mentioned
step.
something about being close to parks, because we have a park right up on Northside Hill, and we got Yellow Creek right here.
Yeah.
But it's what, 500
It has to
feet?
be
500
Is it
feet.
500?
500 feet. Yep.
Which doesn't make much sense to me because this is medical. You could have a doctor's office right next door to a school,
Yeah.
but you could, doesn't make much sense, but it just.
Yeah, I agree with you. Rules are rules, and so we have to abide by the rules. But if anybody's interested in kind of what our facility might look like, we put a couple of renderings in
Those are
that
nice.
packet.
Yeah.
They're really nice.
We don't have a location here yet locked in, obviously. We do have locations in Kent and Sandusky and a handful of other municipalities in the state that we have put together our site plans on. And so the hope is that everyone sees what we're trying to do and understands that this is going to be a premier type of facility from an aesthetics standpoint. We will only serve to improve the areas that we're in. We'll certainly raise property values. Our facilities are going to be as secure as any bank that you'll ever go into. And so from a security cosmetic standpoint, we will be a net benefit to the community in a bunch of different ways.
And if I can just add, also our solicitation of the local resources to hire in to our facilities is a big priority. And then the other factor I think that everyone needs to take into consideration is the residual supply chain with the suppliers that we're utilizing. We do focus in on a lot of local suppliers that we like to work with and grow with. It just makes good sense for us from a business perspective, from a financial perspective, and also it helps within the community as well. So all those things I think are factors.
From our standpoint as well, this was brought to us about 3 years ago. When they
Yeah.
were going to put a packaging facility in the
Oh,
castle.
no, they were gonna actually grow.
I'm sorry, a
That
growing
was my next
facility.
question.
Right, so my next question would be, if this is something you guys do get, would you look to
Potential for that.
potential to grow here, close to home, or is this?
Yeah, sure, there is. So cultivation and processing are separate, they're separate license types, and the way that growth in those license types is gonna be handled is gonna be different than the way this one. It's complicated. Right now, we're regulated, so dispensaries are regulated by the Ohio Board of Pharmacy. Cultivation licenses and processing licenses are regulated by the Ohio Department of Commerce. And so Commerce has a totally different way that they go about assigning licenses or determining whether or not they're going to allow for additional licenses. But what I can say is that I think that the Department of Commerce is likely to authorize additional expansion on the cultivation side of things within the next couple of months as well. And as of right,
To establish businesses like
Yeah.
yours.
yeah, well, yes, to establish more businesses, but also to backfill the supply chain for dispensaries. Right now, the state of Ohio has 54 operational dispensaries. And so by issuing another 73, they more than double the existing number of these businesses in the state. And so you have to allow the supply chain to kind of grow to catch up with it.
But would that be a feather in your hat if you had a successful dispensary here to apply for that?
Yes, it would be.
My
Short
next,
answer.
my next question is, this gets up and running where you guys think, what is your job creation there? How many jobs can we expect that, you guys are gonna need to fulfill?
Right off the bat, probably somewhere between 15, probably right around 15. Not all full-time equivalents. My guess is that full-time equivalents are probably looking at like 10 or 11. But that's on day one. By day, 365, it'll almost certainly be more than that.
Sure.
Now, if you had this dispensary here and you want to start processing, is that building going to be big enough to start processing?
Probably not. We would probably have to find an additional location.
Okay. That's not, yeah, because
I think cash flow is open to the idea. Obviously, we bring that here
Plus,
first.
the
but that's
reason that
something
it
we
got
were talking about.
brought to Caslo in the past was because of
They had
Caslo's
to build it.
electric infrastructure that they had there was
So that,
more
I
than
think
enough.
the state was only giving out like 5 licenses in the state then.
It was few at
really
that time.
This
flooded
location.
with applications, and that didn't get accepted. So-
Yeah, the first round that we went through was very limited licensing, still quite a lot of applications, and it's still that way. I mean, there's still, for a state the size of Ohio, we have a relatively small market. Now, it's growing, and it's good that the state has finally decided they're going to issue some additional licenses, but it's still very limited from that standpoint.
Anybody else have anything?
you covered it.
You're covered, yeah.
Thanks.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you, everyone.
very much.
Again, everyone has my card, so if there are follow-up questions that anyone would like to ask, please don't hesitate to call, email. I'm more than happy to talk.
Now we have legislation on the floor.
Well, we have the
Oh, I'm sorry.
Broder family, and then we have Dr.
Harry tried to cut you off, I'm sorry.
So,
Yeah.
I'll kind of speak first. First
And
of
you guys
all,
can all, if you all want to speak,
we can,
that's up to you.
so first, we wanted to say, really nice to meet you guys, honestly, I think we're on the same mission. I've heard great things about you.
Thank you.
We're new to this, you know, but we've done a lot of research. A couple of things we really want to touch upon is, you know, I think for most of you know who we are. I'm Vicki Groner. I think you know my husband Harry and my son Corey. So, you know, we're really nervous because we're so new to this. But, you know, I think the same thing. He answered a lot of what I had in here, so I'm going to skip around. But we're looking for your support. We basically want to bring a dispensary to this location. We have a prime location in downtown Struthers.
It was already set up to be a pharmacy. It's really close to the police station. It's pretty much already secured. Basement has one way in, and that's it. It's right next to like hands-on physical therapy over there. So we have a pretty prime location, bunch of parking, drive-through window.
I own the building across the street.
What's up?
I said I own the building across the street.
Oh, perfect.
Which building is that?
Right next to where the Bolodrome is.
Oh, okay,
See
yeah.
the tire shop?
Okay.
Awesome, yeah.
Cool, yeah.
Yeah, so we got lucky enough to find a really, really nice location. And I mean, we're in the process of applying. And obviously, us two don't have any experience with the medical marijuana industry, but we have an amazing partner that I should tell you guys a little bit about.
She couldn't make it tonight.
Yeah, she could not make
But
it.
she is amazing.
For the Herb Shop, a medical marijuana dispensary located in Colorado Springs. She's responsible for not only being the CEO of the dispensary, but they run a 10,000 square foot cultivation center out there. So she has experience in both. And we brought her along, and she's been helping us with the application. Like, it's not out yet, but preparing for the application. We both got certified for our master's cannabis certification. So that's a big one. And then we plan on bringing her here if we get awarded the license to help us get up and running, make sure everything from point of sale system to our books, everything is met with compliance. And out there they have a little bit less regulations because it's Colorado, it's been there and she's been doing it for 12 years. So she has more experience than, anyone else, and it's only been a thing for 12 years. She has a bunch of experience. So that was huge for us, getting her on board and willing to come out here and do those things for us. So right now, like you said, we're just waiting for the application to come out. We're pretty much here to ask for your support, and my dad does a lot for this community. So my mom, we have a business here, and if we do get awarded, that Struthers would benefit so much around us here. And talk about hiring locally, we're gonna local attorneys,
Absolutely.
everything. Biggest Struthers guy, he loves this town. He'd do anything for it. I didn't grow up here. I grew up one town over, but still, I've been coming here, going to football games, basketball games since I was a little kid.
Harry cried when we moved one town over, just so you know. But as you know, he's here all the time supporting everyone.
Yeah, Jeff did explain the background very well. It brings jobs, it brings money. Obviously, it's just medicinally, and we're gonna do our best to meet every compliance, every standard that we can do.
Sure. the state's the one who's gonna regulate that, correct? I mean, so
It's
they're
Milwaukee.
gonna be the ones who.
Who pick? Correct, yes, yes.
And as far as picking, our resolution tonight is just the fact that we support in this.
Correct.
So, absolutely, I hope you guys both get it here, and I hope we got 2 dispensaries, that's how enthused I am about it. So,
Yeah, we kinda just wanted, we do have experience, like, we have a team member with more experience than you could really have in the US at least, or legally.
Sure.
So, I mean,
And I didn't mean to interrupt, but I just wanted to touch on our background too. But I've been in healthcare administration for over 25 years, so I understand patient care and everything that goes along with that. So revenue management and the contracting and Stark and HIPAA and all the laws that go. That will too bring to the table a lot in the dispensary. So with that, Ashley's a great support for us and a great team member, but we have diversity, and I think that's huge for us.
and I have a bachelor's degree in finance, computer science, and information systems. So at first we're bringing on like accountant and stuff like that, but point of sale system, all the electronic stuff, we don't need to bring anyone in for that. I mean, I have more than enough experience. I have 3 to 4 years of business finance experience, so.
And we have attorneys that we have hired, so,
And then
to make sure that
Yeah.
everything's compliant.
we already have a security officer out of Columbus who is willing, he's gonna come down and, like, do the blueprints for our building, make sure everything, it's gonna pass, but like, just to change a couple of things here and there, but there's minimal changes that we need for our building, so kind of worked out perfectly in that sense.
So just, I have a question. After this goes through the state and everything, how long does it usually take to start, up and running?
It's hard to say this time around. So last time it was a merit-based application process, and that was basically, you wrote an application. These applications were like 150-ish pages. They got scored, and then the top point winners in every license type, cultivation, processing, and retail, they got licenses. This time it's not like that. Last time it took 8 months, I think, to score them. This time I suspect it'll be a lot quicker because the way they're running the process. This time around, the state has divided up the entire, so the state of Ohio, the government of the state of Ohio has divided up the entire state into 18 what they're calling districts. And a district is usually a cluster of 1 to 4 counties. Every county is getting a certain number of dispensaries. And so, as long as you file a compliant application with the state, it's a lottery. Your name goes into a hat. They're going to go district by district. They'll pick, however many names, 2 out of the hat, 3 out of the hat. I think Franklin County, where Columbus is getting 15 new dispensaries. They'll do every district kind of in sequence, and that's it. So I think that, I don't want to make any promises, but I think that it's likely that with these things being due, say mid to late November, they'll probably have an announcement sometime in the first quarter of 22. And then it's just how quickly does everybody go about doing the renovations and installing security systems and whatnot in order to get up and running.
Okay.
Just to look out for your guys' best interest too, maybe Mayor, you could do this. Now, is Bob's Scene Park considered a park over there?
It is not considered what they're deeming as a park. We already
Okay.
checked that out.
Because being the kids were there, closer to your property and whatnot, if there was,
That's more than 500
if there was no.
Yeah, no, we thought about that too, that's what I was saying.
Yeah,
Okay.
It's about
Yeah.
500 feet.
I think we did the radius of
Okay.
where the.
That's fine.
It
This-
couldn't be.
No, we
Yeah.
thought the same thing, that's why we checked into it.
Very good.
And we're open to suggestions and, we want to hear what people have to say. Because sometimes people bring up things that maybe we didn't look at or think about, we've done our due diligence, we believe, and, but there's always little things in the crack that could slip. Thank you for that.
I think for us, it would be an asset to this community. Also being privileged to have a business here. My family's been in business for 60 years in this town. And this town has really been good to our family. So I want to thank everybody. Anytime people, council, mayor, everybody, it's just a great community. And I think we could be an asset to this community.
Thank you.
I don't know anything about the business, about what's going on with them. They're doing all the work, I'm the guy behind the scenes, but anyway.
I'm always thrilled
this-
for new business.
This is a great community, okay? To be in business in the same location for 60 years is, you know, it doesn't just happen by being in business. You have a good group of people running this city. We've had a lot of good people before you guys and ladies got there, so I'm just, you know.
Hey, the city really values you.
I'm just happy to be a part of the city.
You've been a great to the city as well.
That's, you know, what's gonna happen is gonna happen, and, you know, hopefully we can land it. If not, I mean, there will be no hard feelings.
Sure.
If we get a shot at it, we don't know, but we're gonna try our best.
I hope you do get it. I mean, I know I'm in support of this resolution 100%. I know there might be a little stigma that carries with it, but that's kind of a prehistoric way of thinking. It's medicine, the same as any other medicine, and I'm in favor of it 100%. Now, with that being said, all that's coming from this council is support. We don't actually get to pick anything or have any sway on who gets what.
Right.
But I wish both of you the best, and I'm in support of it. I can't speak for everyone, but
So am I, in support. 100%.
Great.
Thank you guys.
Are there any questions that we can help clear? Like Dallas said, it's something that's coming whether we like it or not. This may not have gone over so well a few years ago because of the stigma that was attached to it, but I think it has evolved so much in the last couple of years that it's really been proven its worth. So I know our office is definitely in support of this, and I think we're going to be writing letters for both, just from my office alone, but.
I would extend that. I think if everybody's in agreement on it, as far as council would be in support of it the same way. Any type of literature that we can send out or anything that would be in support of it, we're in the same boat. I'm trying to get as much business as we can here. This is a legitimate, legal business. I'm after the jobs and I'm after the tax revenue that it's going to gain. Simple as that.
Question for maybe Doctor over here, you can answer this. Any of your constituents, and you talk about doing any prescriptions in this area for this stuff?
Well, you know, as far as, you know, medical marijuana, like you said, if you would have asked me that question several years ago, it might have been a different answer, but the way, you know, medicine is trending, it's used all the time by more people than you would actually think, because there's a lot of times when you know, the big thing right now is the march against opiates and different types of pain medication. That's become a big thing in the last couple of years. But there's so many times when we can't use, you know, those type of prescriptions, anti-inflammatory medicines. So believe it or not, your grandparents, you're using these products for pain relief. And, you know, it's very prevalent. We use them all the time. I recommend them to my patients. So.
But I think what Rick was pertaining to was possibly the marijuana, the card.
The card.
Yes.
You know, that brings in all different type of things, because there's certain physicians that will actually do that. But right now, because it is actually not federally legal and only legal in the state, it kind of limits the number of prescribers that you could actually, you know, have. Because most doctors are employed by hospital systems. So you're kind of limited on the number of. There are physicians that do it. A lot of those physicians are independent. So whether or not they'll become more lenient as this becomes more a commonplace, I'm not sure of yet, but I don't know if that answers your question.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Is it going to be obviously worth this happening?
Oh yeah, it's definitely worth it.
I mean, I understand.
Yeah, hands down. Like
But
I
what you said, there's a lot more people, you know, you doctors working for.
Well, they're more specialized doctors that
Yeah,
actually give out the cards.
Yeah, specialized and independent that aren't basically owned and operated by hospital systems.
That's what I was getting at. That's what I was
Do
getting
you know of any hospital systems that are maybe swaying towards this and as far as their pharmacies?
A lot of, every hospital group usually has like pain centers.
Yeah.
and those doctors are more willing to use it, I think, than others. I think that's what they're-
Or even so, from my understanding, I mean, a lot of doctors that don't do it, that are owned by bigger hospitals and things like that, will just refer you
Correct.
to the few
Somebody that
doctors
does
that
do it.
do actually do it.
100%.
And just to add on that, I mean, it's not that few. I think in the state of Ohio, there's almost 1,000 physicians that have certificates to recommend.
Okay.
And so while it's not, it's not 10,000, it's still, I think, enough of a critical mass for it to be meaningful. And we do have, just also talking about numbers, in the state of Ohio right now, I believe the numbers from July just came out. August, it's not out yet, but I think we've got something like 220,000 recommendations that have been made in the state of Ohio, and there's something like 170,000 unique patients that have gotten a recommendation, gotten their card, and gone into a dispensary to make a purchase. And that's not bad. In the state of Ohio, over the course of the past approximately 3 years that the program has been active, it's been a pretty linear growth rate, and a lot of the growth in the market, from our standpoint, has really been limited by lack of dispensaries. A lot of people just don't have access. The state of Ohio with almost 12 million people, 54 dispensaries, it's not enough, and that's why the state is going through this process again.
Look at here, there's only one, is there one per county? Is that basically what we have now?
It's different. It's different for different areas. So in this area, there are 2 in the Youngstown area. There's 1 in Warren, and I believe that's it.
Wait, there's one in Portland too.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
I remember that.
That's the,
Yeah,
that's the,
And then one in the house, Airborne. And then the East Liverpool.
And that's exclusively the dispensaries.
Sure.
Right.
Now, are you able to service people that come in from Pennsylvania since we're so close? They have to be Ohio residents?
They have to have an Ohio card.
Okay.
And so if they can get a card in Ohio, a residency in Ohio, or if they're in Ohio a lot, or if they have an Ohio caregiver, that's a whole separate thing. Then the short answer is yes, but they still have to be an Ohio card holder. They have to be in Ohio system.
Okay, anybody else? You guys have anything further?
No. Thank
Thanks
you
for your
for
time.
listening.
Doc?
Thank you for your time.
Okay, back to the resolution that is proposed. I need a motion to bring it out. Need a second?
Second.
Thank you, council.
I just want to thank you guys for coming in and speaking. Things and things like that.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Thanks for your time.
Appreciate it. Okay, here's our next resolution, which I believe is our final. It's a resolution in support of becoming an AARP age-friendly community. Mayor, you want to speak on this?
Yes. So this is
To put you up to this?
So this is something, we've been working with KO Consulting, part of the comprehensive plan with Sam and Kristen. This isn't something that a lot of places around here are doing, so it's something kind of outside of the box of this area. But it's just basically to say that we are AARP friendly, so when we're doing outdoor spaces, buildings, transportation, housing, social participation, that we are taking this into consideration so that we can be deemed an AARP friendly community.
So Jim and I could get discounts now?
Yeah.
What do you mean, Jim's 37 years old, he's a year older than me in school. That's right.
But this is something that's gonna be a little bit different. I think once this is out there and we start going through all this, especially with the plan, I think that there may be other communities that will try to do this as well.
Sure. Anything else, anybody? Motion to bring it out?
Motion to bring it up.
Second?
Second.
Okay. Anybody else have anything for finance and legislation this evening?
Yeah, can I bring something up?
Yes, help yourself.
Well, first of all, I want to say that with the boutique sale we had on Saturday, we did really, really well. We already have almost I think 22 beds sponsored for Sleep in Heavenly Peace. So the build day for the beds will be November 6th from 8 to 12. It'll be behind City Hall at the garage for anybody that wants to come and volunteer time
Where is it? I'm sorry.
behind City Hall
Okay.
to bring your crew.
The street department?
It's gonna be 8 to 12, November 6th. So
Tools, she'll bring tools?
they are gonna supply everything. They said no
What about
experience
lunch? Are they
necessary.
supplying lunch?
Probably donuts.
We may have
Fair
a
enough.
supplier.
Oh, cool.
Handmade.
Okay, but that'll be 8 to 12. They're gonna set up at like 6 in the morning. So anybody that wants to come for that. And then I also have a question for John if he's on.
John Zamoyda.
Well,
John, you
I'll talk
on?
to you guys first if he's not.
I'm on.
Sleeping.
Sorry, John, I have a question.
Sorry.
There is the biker clubhouse that is moving in on on 5th Street in Sexton. I had some concerned neighbors call and asked if there was any type of ordinance we could put into place about them being there, revving their motors and things like that. I didn't know if there was like an occupancy.
Well, if it's a noise violation, then we have
Yes.
things for a noise violation.
But I mean, I think they're talking more of like
I don't
the
see.
stigma about
I understand,
the
but I don't,
thing.
in my opinion, I don't see, if it was a knitting club, would it be an issue? So we have to let them get in there and dictate basically how they are gonna act in there before we can start targeting them.
Well, I just
more or
wanted to
less.
know John's point of view of if there would be anything that we could bring to the table. I don't either, but.
I have met with, can everybody hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, I met with the mayor, we have spoken about this. At this point in time, based on everything I know, I would tend to agree with what Dallas said. It's going to be extremely difficult to just put something in place that would prohibit them from existing. But I am looking into it to see if there's anything we can do. But I suspect at the end of the day that it's going to be no, there's really not much we can do other than possibly, that's all I'm going to say about that.
Alright,
No, John, I mean, we do have a set of rules that have to be followed in this city and complied with as far as noise and disturbances and how the building is maintained and all of those things. They will have to comply with the same as anyone else. But just because a certain stigma follows being a motorcycle club, there's no way that we can target them or try to put things in place. They haven't even proven themselves to be everybody's had an issue with it, and they haven't proven themselves to be a problem yet. Correct? I mean.
Correct, and that, we do have, on our books right now, but we're gonna have to go back and, we're gonna have to go through and revise it for reasons unrelated to this, but we do have things on our books that say if, if you're a nuisance property, whether that be commercial or residential, if you're a nuisance property, then, there's certain, actions we might be able to take, against the owner of the property, but, until they give us a reason, there's nothing we can do. So yeah, they do have to comply with everything that's on the books. We're not exempt from complying with our ordinances that are already in place.
John, as far as the zoning ordinances we have, it's perfectly legal to have a club like that, correct? Even if it was a residential?
Yeah, we actually looked into that. We were a little confused as to exactly where it was, but regardless of which district it's actually sitting in, it would be in compliance with our zoning ordinance.
now John, one more question. Someone had said to me that in our ordinance we have, it says more or less like if it's deemed a private clubhouse, like we can't go in to inspect it like we would a normal commercial property.
That would not be correct. I mean, it may be a quote-unquote private clubhouse in the sense that they only admit certain people, but it is in fact still commercial.
That can't be true. There's no way that could be true because the owner, the landlord, is renting it to them. Prior to renting it to them, it has to be inspected. So at this point, it is not a private club until it is inspected and then rented to them, correct?
Correct, and even once it is up and running, it would still be subject to, inspection by the city in all areas that are being used by the general public or the members of the board.
One question, John. What, are they allowed to have alcohol beverages inside there, or do they have to get a permit to have that?
They are permitted, they would be permitted to bring their own beverages, they could not sell any beverages.
Okay, so in other words, you're saying that when they're there having their meetings or whatever they're doing, they're allowed to bring their alcohol there, and
Sure, they just can't sell it.
This kid's so.
yeah, they just can't sell it, right?
If you was at a Super Bowl party, people would bring alcohol.
Yeah,
It's like our good
You know what I mean?
yeah, right.
So.
Okay,
It's just a wait and see
Correct.
process. now.
I think
Yeah.
I mean, and I could see everybody's skepticism.
Yeah, going
Sure.
crazy.
And I've gotten phone calls on it too, but the truth of the matter is, you can't do anything until you know
Until they
how you
what their
correct.
intention
I
is.
mean, listen, they might be down here at Clean Up Struthers Day helping. You don't know what kind of, resident of the community they're gonna be.
Yeah.
So to jump to any conclusions and to try to prohibit them from anything would be.
No, it's the stigma of the bike, like the stigma of the
Correct.
marijuana.
Correct.
It's the same
Yeah.
thing.
I know.
But you have to keep an open mind in this town.
Absolutely.
Fair enough. And John, do we need a resolution for the 4-year term that we are proposing that's going to go on the ballot?
we already did that,
That's
Bill.
done?
Yeah, that's done.
Okay.
Yeah, I did review the ballot language today. I didn't get to see it until about, it was about 3:30, 4 o'clock. And I did send Megan a text message, if you got it, Megan. I do think that we probably should have a resolution, just approving the ballot language.
Okay. Bring it on.
Is John gonna?
John, will you put something forward for that? Will you get Megan some language for that? Yeah. Thank you.
Right.
Okay, what else we got for finance and legislation? I don't get to see everybody that much, so.
No, now.
Yeah, I would say so next month.
I'll be sick of you guys 2 weeks from now. Nah, if nobody has anything else, we'll call for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Second,
Second.
meeting adjourned.
Nice seeing everybody.
Good to see everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Good luck. Thank you. Good luck. Thank you. Good luck, guys. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Recording
Scratch just one stop.
I'll do it tomorrow, so that way I'm not watching it.
I thought we were gonna get lucky. We were gonna have. Oh, yeah. I'm hoping they come.
Whatever that I got, if next year we're going to ask her to work, maybe. We'll continue to work.
So we're
Try to
fine.
take care of everything.
Listen, I'll help you guys out a couple days a week, and you